Hey everyone! How y'all doing? I hope you're all blessed and feeling good today. As always, we're going to dive into a story that's going to make your blood boil, then make you cheer, and probably have you shouting at your screen. This is the tale of a woman who gave everything she had to build her husband's dream, and I mean everything. For 7 long years, she worked herself to the bone, sold her grandmother's treasured property, and put every single penny into her husband's business venture. But when that business finally hit it big, when the money started rolling in, you know what he told her? He said, "You're too simple for my new world. I need a wife who matches my success." After their divorce, she disappeared without a trace. But 2 years later, that same husband came crawling back, desperate and broken. What happened to him? Well, before we get into this incredible story, I always ask you to keep supporting the Twisted RQT Stories channel. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our most exciting narratives. And while you're at it, how about a quick roll call? Drop your name, your city, and the word present in the comments below. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Thank you all so much. All right, without further ado, let's dive right into this story. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the grand ballroom at the Houston Four Seasons. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead as hundreds of guests in designer suits and elegant gowns raised their champagne glasses. At the center of it all stood Victor Reyes, 45 years old, impeccably dressed in a custom Italian suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He was basking in the applause, his face beaming with triumph. His tech company, Reyes Dynamics, had just gone public. The IPO was a massive success. Overnight, Victor had become worth $300 million. $300 million. The newspapers were calling him the Houston Tech King. Investors were lining up to shake his hand. It was the culmination of everything he had worked for. But standing quietly near the back of the room, almost invisible among the glamorous crowd, was his wife, Elena. At 43, she wore a simple navy blue dress, the nicest thing she owned, though it looked plain compared to the designer gowns around her. Her hands, rough from years of hard work, clutched a small glass of sparkling water. She didn't drink champagne anymore. She had given up small luxuries like that years ago. Elena watched her husband accept congratulations from strangers, from investors, from beautiful young women in tight dresses who laughed too loudly at his jokes. She waited for him to look her way, to acknowledge her, to maybe even thank her. After all, 7 years ago, Victor had been nobody. He'd been a failed accountant with a dream and no money, and she had believed in that dream. Elena's grandmother had left her a small property in San Antonio, a modest house that had been in their family for 3 generations. It wasn't worth millions, but it was worth enough. When Victor came to her with his business plan, his eyes shining with ambition, Elena had made the hardest decision of her life. She sold that house. Every penny, $240,000, went into Victor's startup. But that wasn't all. For 7 years, Elena had worked 2 jobs. During the day, she managed the front desk at a dental office. At night, she cleaned office buildings until 2 in the morning. She did this while Victor worked on his company, while he attended networking events, while he traveled to meet investors. She paid their rent. She paid their bills. She even paid for his new suits when he said he needed to look the part for meetings. And now, watching him shake hands with millionaires, Elena felt a small flutter of hope in her chest. It was finally over. The sacrifice had paid off. Now they could start their real life together. Maybe buy a nice house. Maybe she could finally quit her night job. Maybe Victor would look at her the way he used to, back when they were young and in love and dreaming together. Victor finally made his way toward her. Elena's heart lifted. But as he got closer, she noticed something cold in his eyes, something she hadn't seen before. Or maybe she had been too tired, too busy working, to notice it growing over the years. "Elena," Victor said, his voice flat, "we need to talk. Let's go somewhere private." They found a small conference room off the main ballroom. Victor closed the door. He didn't sit down. Neither did Elena. She could feel something terrible coming, the way you can feel a storm before it hits. "This isn't easy for me to say," Victor began, though his voice didn't sound difficult at all. It sounded rehearsed. "But I've been thinking about this for a long time. Our marriage isn't working anymore." Elena blinked. "What do you mean?" "Victor, Your company just went public. We did it. We made it. Victor shook his head slowly, almost pityingly. You don't understand, Elena. My life is different now. I'm different now. I'm going to be meeting with senators, with Fortune 500 CEOs, with people who matter. I need someone beside me who fits that world. And I don't fit? Elena's voice cracked. Victor sighed, as if she was being deliberately slow. Look at yourself, Elena. Look at your hands. They're like sandpaper. Look at your dress. You bought it at a department store. When's the last time you got your hair done at a real salon? When's the last time you could hold a conversation about wine, or art, or international markets? Each word was a knife. Elena felt her legs trembling. I supported you, she whispered. I sold my grandmother's house. I worked 2 jobs for 7 years. I gave you everything. And I appreciate that, Victor said, in a tone that suggested he didn't appreciate it at all. Consider it an investment that paid off. But Elena, let's be honest. You're too simple for my new world. I need a wife who matches my success. Someone sophisticated. Someone who can stand beside me at galas without embarrassing me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He placed it on the table between them. These are divorce papers. I've already had my lawyers draw them up. I'm being generous. You'll get the apartment and $50,000. That's more than fair, considering you didn't actually contribute to the company. Elena stared at the envelope. 7 years. $240,000 from her grandmother's house. Thousands of hours scrubbing floors at 2 a.m. All of it reduced to an envelope and a dismissive wave of his hand. The apartment? She repeated, her voice hollow. The apartment with the mortgage we can barely pay? The $50,000 that doesn't even cover what I put in? Elena, don't make this difficult. My lawyers are very good. If you fight this, you'll end up with nothing. Take the offer. Move on with your life. Find someone on your level. On your level. Those words hit Elena like a physical blow. She looked at Victor, really looked at him for the first time in years. She saw the expensive watch on his wrist, the one she had paid for 2 years ago as a business necessity. She saw the custom suit, the tailored shirt, the Italian leather shoes, all of it built on her sacrifice. All of it, and he stood there telling her she wasn't on his level. Something inside Elena cracked, but it didn't break her. Instead, it hardened into something cold and sharp. She picked up the envelope. She didn't open it. She just held it in her rough, working hands. You know what, Victor? Her voice was suddenly calm, eerily calm. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. Victor looked surprised. He had expected tears, pleading, maybe even a scene he could later describe to his friends as evidence of her emotional instability. But I want you to remember this moment, Elena continued. Remember what you said to me tonight. Too simple. On your level. Remember every word. Because one day, Victor, you're going to understand exactly what level I'm on. And by then, it'll be too late. She walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. Oh, and Victor, I'm going to sign your papers. I'll take your insulting offer. Not because I can't fight you, but because I don't want a single dollar that's connected to you. I'd rather start from zero than carry the stain of your betrayal. She left him standing alone in that conference room, his perfect evening suddenly feeling a little less perfect. That night, Elena went back to the small apartment they shared. She packed 1 suitcase with her clothes and a few photographs. She took nothing else. Not the furniture Victor had bought, not the electronics, not even the kitchen appliances she had paid for herself. She wanted nothing that would remind her of him. She called her only close friend, Mariana, a woman she had known since elementary school in San Antonio. Elena? It's 2 a.m. Is everything okay? Victor asked for a divorce. Tonight, at his IPO party. Silence on the other end. Then, that piece of garbage. I'm coming over. No. Don't. I'm leaving tonight. I just wanted to tell someone. Leaving? Where are you going? Elena looked out the window at the Houston skyline, all those glittering towers that suddenly felt like a prison. I don't know yet, but I need to disappear for a while. I need to think. I need to rebuild. Elena, don't do anything crazy. You're in shock. I'm not in shock, Mariana. For the first time in 7 years, I'm actually thinking clearly. I gave everything to a man who saw me as nothing. Now I'm going to give everything to myself." There was a pause. Then Mariana said, "You always were the strongest person I knew, even when we were kids. Whatever you're planning, make it count." "I will. And Mariana, if Victor ever comes asking about me, you don't know where I am. You haven't heard from me. As far as anyone knows, Elena Reyes disappeared." Elena hung up. She signed the divorce papers, left them on the kitchen counter, and walked out of that apartment forever. She took a Greyhound bus to San Antonio that same night. She had $800 in her savings account. That was her entire fortune now. But Elena had something more valuable than money. She had 7 years of experience watching Victor build a company from nothing. She had sat through his practice pitches. She had proofread his business plans. She had listened to him talk about every deal, every strategy, every mistake. She had absorbed it all, even when she was exhausted, even when her eyes were heavy from working double shifts. Victor thought she was simple. He thought she was nothing but a maid who had funded his dreams. He had no idea what she had been learning all those years. In San Antonio, Elena rented a tiny room above a laundromat. The first thing she did was buy a second-hand laptop. The second thing she did was start writing. You see, Elena had always had a gift for words. In high school, she had won writing competitions. In college, before she dropped out to help her sick mother, her professors had told her she could be a real writer someday. But life had gotten in the way. Marriage had gotten in the way. Victor's dreams had consumed everything, including her own. Now, with nothing left to lose, Elena started writing her story. Not a revenge fantasy, not a bitter tell-all, but the truth. The raw, honest truth about what it means to sacrifice everything for someone who sees you as disposable. She wrote about the late nights scrubbing floors, about selling her grandmother's house and crying alone afterward because Victor couldn't understand why she was sad, about watching her husband transform from a hopeful dreamer into an arrogant stranger. She called the book The Silent Partner. Elena wrote for 6 months straight. She worked part-time at a local grocery store to pay rent, but every spare moment went into that manuscript. When she finished, she didn't bother with traditional publishers. She knew they would take years. Instead, she self-published on Amazon, priced it cheap, and posted about it in online forums for women who had been through similar experiences. The book exploded. It hit a nerve. Thousands of women saw themselves in Elena's story. The reviews poured in. Finally, someone who understands. I cried reading this because it's my life. Every woman who has ever sacrificed for an ungrateful man needs to read this. Within 4 months, The Silent Partner had sold over 200,000 copies. Elena was interviewed on podcasts, then local news, then national morning shows. She became a symbol of resilience, of starting over, of refusing to be defined by how others saw you. But Elena didn't stop there. With the money from her book, she started something bigger. She created a foundation called the Restart Initiative. Its mission was simple but powerful, helping women who had been financially devastated by divorce to rebuild their lives. She offered microgrants for education, job training, and small business startups. She partnered with lawyers to provide free legal consultations. The foundation grew rapidly. Donations poured in from readers who had been touched by her story. Corporations wanted to sponsor her. Within 18 months, the Restart Initiative had helped over 1,000 women get back on their feet. Elena was no longer the invisible wife scrubbing floors at 2 a.m. She was Elena Martinez because she had legally changed her name, the best-selling author and founder of one of the fastest-growing women's empowerment nonprofits in Texas. She was invited to speak at conferences. She was featured in Forbes. She was, by any measure, a success. And she was just getting started. Meanwhile, back in Houston, Victor Reyes was living his dream life. Or so it appeared. The first year after the divorce had been everything he wanted. He bought a mansion in River Oaks. He traded in his Porsche for a Ferrari. He started dating a 28-year-old Instagram model named Brittany who looked perfect at parties and never had an opinion about anything. He had completely erased Elena from his memory. When people asked about his ex-wife, he waved dismissively. She was a nice person, but we grew apart. She wasn't equipped for this lifestyle. He made it sound like she had simply chosen to leave, like it was a mutual, civilized parting. He never mentioned the divorce papers at the IPO party. He never mentioned the words "too simple," but beneath the glittering surface, cracks were forming. Victor's company, Reyes Dynamics, had grown too fast. In his rush to impress investors and inflate the stock price, Victor had cut corners. He had exaggerated revenue projections. He had hidden certain expenses in creative accounting tricks. He had, to put it bluntly, committed fraud. For a while, it worked. The stock price soared. Victor felt invincible. But then came the audit. It started with a whistleblower, a young accountant who discovered discrepancies and reported them to the SEC. Within weeks, federal investigators were crawling through Reyes Dynamics' financial records. The stock price collapsed. Shareholders filed lawsuits. Victor's carefully constructed empire began to crumble. Then came the personal disasters. Brittany, the Instagram model girlfriend, disappeared the moment the money stopped flowing. She was photographed 2 weeks later on a yacht in Monaco with another tech billionaire. The mansion in River Oaks was seized by the bank. The Ferrari was repossessed. Victor's so-called friends, all those investors and executives who had toasted him at his IPO, suddenly didn't return his calls. But the worst blow came from his own body. Victor had always prided himself on his health. He worked out, ate well, looked good. So, when he started experiencing strange symptoms, tingling in his hands, occasional blurred vision, sudden fatigue, he assumed it was stress. The SEC investigation was taking its toll. That was all. He was wrong. A neurologist delivered the diagnosis that would change everything. Victor had a rare autoimmune disorder attacking his nervous system. Without treatment, he would experience progressive paralysis. Within 2 years, he might lose the ability to walk, to use his hands, possibly even to breathe on his own. The treatment existed, a specialized procedure involving stem cell therapy, available only at a clinic in Switzerland. The cost? $2.3 million, not covered by insurance. Victor sat in the neurologist's office, staring at the diagnosis, and for the first time in his life, felt truly afraid. He ran through his options. His bank accounts were frozen due to the SEC investigation. His assets had been seized. His credit was destroyed. His former friends were ghosts. His family, a brother in Florida and a mother in a nursing home, had no money to spare. Victor spent weeks desperately searching for help. He called investors. Voicemail. He called business associates. "Sorry, Victor, but you understand my position." He even called Brittany, humiliating himself. She blocked his number. Then, late one night, scrolling through news articles about his own downfall, Victor saw something that made his heart stop. Elena Martinez, author of The Silent Partner and founder of the Restart Initiative, announces new medical assistance program for women and families facing catastrophic healthcare costs. Elena Martinez. His Elena. The woman he had dismissed as too simple. The woman whose hands had been like sandpaper. He clicked on the article, and there she was. But not the Elena he remembered. This woman wore a tailored cream-colored blazer. Her hair was professionally styled. She stood at a podium in front of hundreds of people, confident and radiant, announcing that her foundation was expanding to help people facing medical bankruptcies. Victor read the article 3 times. The foundation had assets of over $15 million. It specialized in helping people who had been financially devastated and now faced medical crises. It was exactly what he needed. And it was run by his ex-wife. Victor's hands trembled as he held his phone. The irony was too cruel, too perfect. The woman he had called simple was now a best-selling author and philanthropist. The woman he had discarded was now his only hope. He couldn't do it. His pride wouldn't let him. He, Victor Reyes, the Houston tech king, couldn't go crawling to his ex-wife begging for medical charity. But as the weeks passed, his symptoms worsened. The tingling in his hands became numbness. He dropped things constantly. His vision blurred at random moments. The doctors said he had maybe 6 months before the damage became irreversible. Pride was a luxury he could no longer afford. Victor found Elena's contact through her foundation's website. He didn't call directly. He was too ashamed. Instead, he sent an email, carefully worded, trying to sound professional rather than desperate. Dear Elena, I hope this message finds you well. I recently learned about your foundation's new medical assistance program. I find myself in a difficult situation and would appreciate the opportunity to discuss eligibility. Sincerely, Victor. He didn't sign it, Victor Reyes. Just Victor, as if she might not remember him, as if she might somehow overlook who he was. 2 days passed. 3. Victor checked his email obsessively. Nothing. Then, on the 4th day, a response came. But it wasn't from Elena. It was from someone named Amanda Torres, Program Director at the Restart Initiative. Dear Mr. Reyes, thank you for your interest in our medical assistance program. We have reviewed your inquiry. Please find attached the application forms for our medical crisis grant. Please note that all applicants must provide complete documentation of their medical condition, financial status, and personal history. We also require a statement of need explaining your circumstances. Once your application is complete, our review committee will evaluate your eligibility. Regards, Amanda Torres. Victor's stomach turned. They knew who he was. Of course they knew, and they were making him apply like anyone else. They were going to make him document his complete financial destruction in writing. They were going to make him explain his circumstances. He had no choice. For 3 days, Victor filled out the application, page after page of humiliating admissions. His income, 0. His assets, 0. His debts, $4.7 million in various lawsuits and legal fees. His medical condition, progressive autoimmune neurological disorder, requiring $2.3 million treatment. The final section asked for a statement of need. Victor stared at the blank page for hours. What could he possibly write? In the end, he wrote the truth. Not all of it, because his pride still had some limits, but enough. I am facing a medical condition that will leave me paralyzed if not treated. I have no resources and no one to turn to. I am asking for help. He submitted the application and waited. A week later, he received another email. This one made his blood run cold. Dear Mr. Reyes, your application has been received and reviewed by our preliminary committee. Given the complexity of your case, the Foundation's executive director has requested a personal meeting. Please present yourself at our San Antonio headquarters on Thursday at 2 p.m. Bring all original documentation. You will be meeting with Miss Elena Martinez directly. Victor read the email 5 times. Elena wanted to see him, face to face. After everything he had done, Thursday arrived. Victor took a Greyhound bus to San Antonio. He couldn't afford anything else. The bus was hot, crowded, and smelled like fast food. He sat in the back, wearing the last decent suit he owned, now slightly wrinkled, and tried not to think about how far he had fallen. The Restart Initiative headquarters was in a renovated historic building downtown. It was beautiful, tasteful, professional, everything Victor's life used to be. He walked into the lobby on shaking legs. A receptionist smiled politely and asked him to wait. He sat in a comfortable chair, surrounded by photographs of women the Foundation had helped. Success stories, new beginnings. He felt like a fraud among them. After 20 minutes, a door opened. A professional-looking woman in her 30s appeared. Mr. Reyes? Miss Martinez will see you now. Victor followed her down a hallway and into a corner office with large windows overlooking the city. And there, behind a beautiful mahogany desk, sat Elena. She looked nothing like the woman he had dismissed 2 years ago. Her hair was elegantly cut. Her clothes were expensive but understated. Her posture radiated quiet authority. But what struck Victor most were her eyes. They were calm, observant, and completely unreadable. "Hello, Victor," Elena said. Her voice was neutral. Not warm, not cold, just professional. "Please, sit down." Victor sat. His hands were trembling. He tried to hide them in his lap. "I reviewed your application," Elena continued, picking up a folder from her desk. "It's quite thorough. You've documented your financial collapse very completely." Victor said nothing. What was there to say? "I see the SEC investigation is ongoing. Multiple shareholder lawsuits. Criminal charges potentially pending." Elena flipped through pages. "Your medical diagnosis is confirmed, Doctor. Harrington at Methodist is highly respected. The Swiss clinic you mentioned is indeed the only facility offering this treatment. She closed the folder and looked at him directly. $2.3 million. That's a lot of money, Victor. I know. His voice came out hoarse. Elena, I don't know what to say. I never expected. Never expected what? That you'd need help? That you'd need help from me specifically? Elena's voice remained even. Life is full of surprises. Victor swallowed hard. I was wrong. Back then. What I said to you. How I treated you. I was wrong. Yes, Elena agreed simply. You were. A long silence stretched between them. Victor felt sweat forming on his forehead. Our foundation has helped over 2,000 people in the past year, Elena finally said. Women who were abandoned by husbands, families destroyed by medical bills, people who had nothing and no one. We have a rigorous selection process because our resources are limited and the need is enormous. Victor nodded, unable to speak. Your case is unusual, Elena continued. You're not our typical applicant. You were wealthy. You had every advantage. And you ended up here not because of bad luck, but because of your own choices. Each word was like a small cut. Victor couldn't argue with any of it. But, Elena said, and Victor's heart jumped at that word, our foundation's mission is to help people rebuild, regardless of how they fell. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. I'm going to approve your application. Victor nearly collapsed with relief. Elena, thank you. Thank you so much. I'll pay you back, I swear. Every penny, I'll find a way. I'm not finished. Elena turned back to face him. The foundation will cover your medical treatment. All $2.3 million. The Swiss clinic has been contacted. They can see you next month. Elena, I don't know how to, but this is not a gift. Elena's voice hardened slightly. It's not charity, and it's definitely not because I still have feelings for you. I don't. What I felt for you died the night you handed me those divorce papers. Victor flinched but said nothing. This is an investment. The foundation will pay for your treatment. In return, you will sign a contract committing to work for the foundation for the next 15 years. 15 years? You're a skilled accountant, Victor. Before you became a fraud, you actually had talent. Our foundation needs financial expertise. You will work in our grants administration department, reviewing applications, managing budgets, ensuring every dollar goes where it's supposed to go. Elena walked back to her desk and picked up another document. Your salary will be $42,000 per year. Modest, but livable. You will report to our chief financial officer. You will follow all foundation policies. And you will work with integrity. Something you forgot along the way. Victor stared at the contract. $42,000 a year. He used to spend that much on vacations, on watches, on bottles of wine. If you violate the terms, Elena continued, if you steal, lie, or cut corners, the full amount of your medical treatment becomes immediately due. And I will personally ensure you spend the rest of your healthy years in prison. She slid the contract across the desk toward him. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. Victor looked at the contract. 15 years. It was a life sentence, in a way. 15 years working for his ex-wife, the woman he had called too simple. 15 years being reminded every single day of how wrong he had been. But the alternative was paralysis, helplessness, death. I'll take them, Victor whispered. Good. Elena handed him a pen. Sign every page. Victor signed. His hands shook so badly that his signature was barely legible, but he signed. When it was done, Elena took the contract back and placed it in a folder. Amanda will give you the details about the Swiss clinic and your travel arrangements. Your employment starts immediately upon your return and medical clearance. Do you have any questions? Victor had 1,000 questions, but only one came out. Elena, why? Why are you helping me? After everything I did? Elena looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer but not warm. Just honest. Because, Victor, I spent 7 years of my life supporting your dreams, and when I was at my lowest, I promised myself that if I ever had power, I would use it differently than you did. I would lift people up instead of throwing them away. She paused. I'm not helping you because you deserve it. I'm helping you because helping people is who I am. And I refuse to let what you did to me change that. Victor felt tears forming in his eyes. Not tears of relief, tears of shame. For the first time, he truly understood what he had lost. Not money, not status, but Elena. The real Elena. The woman who had been extraordinary all along while he was too blind to see it. "I'm sorry," he said. The words felt pathetic, inadequate. "I'm so sorry." "I know," Elena said simply. "But sorry doesn't erase 7 years. Sorry doesn't give me back my grandmother's house. Sorry doesn't undo the nights I spent crying on bathroom floors because I felt worthless." She stood, signaling that the meeting was over. "What matters now is what you do next. You have a second chance, Victor. Don't waste it." Victor stood on unsteady legs. He walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "Elena, you're remarkable. I was a fool not to see it." Elena gave him a small, sad smile. "Yes, Victor, you were." Victor left the building and stepped out into the San Antonio sunshine. Behind him was the foundation his ex-wife had built. Ahead of him was 15 years of humble work, of rebuilding not his fortune but his character. He remembered what he had told Elena on that terrible night. "We're not on the same level." He had been right, just not in the way he thought. Elena was on a level he could never reach. Not because of money or success, but because of who she was. She had taken the worst betrayal and transformed it into something beautiful. She had built an empire out of pain. And when her worst enemy came crawling to her, she had chosen compassion over revenge. Victor walked to the bus station. He had a long journey ahead, in every sense. But for the first time in years, he felt something other than arrogance or desperation. He felt humility. 6 months later, Victor was fully recovered and working in a small office at the Restart Initiative. He reviewed grant applications, balanced budgets, and made sure every dollar was accounted for. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't prestigious, but it was honest work. He saw Elena occasionally, passing, in hallways or in all-staff meetings. She always acknowledged him politely, professionally, nothing more. And Victor understood. He didn't deserve more, but he also understood something else. He understood that Elena's final act, helping him despite everything, was not weakness, it was strength. It was the ultimate proof that she had always been the better person. She didn't need revenge. She had already won. Because the greatest revenge is living well, and Elena Martinez was living extraordinarily. Now, you all, I want to know what you think about this story. Was Elena right to help Victor, or should she have let him suffer? And which city are you watching from? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next story, with love and respect.